Now, amongst all of the new features in Xcode and in iOS 5, one of the features that I find extremely useful for testing applications is the ability to set custom user locations. Now let me just show you how the iOS simulator has changed in this respect. And what I've done is I've opened an old project, which I haven't actually looked at for quite a while now. And the first thing I'm going to do is down here click Validate Settings. This will upgrade my compiler configuration to use the latest version of Apple's compiler, the LLVM compiler 3.0. I'll enable snapshots, so it can take a snapshot before I do that. It'll do this all for me, which is all very nice. And it'll change things just to make sure that the latest version of the compiler is being used. If I look at the build settings, there I'm going to see the latest version of the compiler. So we're set to go. Let's go back. Let's take a little look at what we've got in the application. It's a very simple one. We have a map view in the main nib file. I haven't updated this project to use storyboards. And in the main view controller, we're simply coming along and we're saying, right, show the current user location on the map view, set it to a type standard, and we're adding a title and a subtitle for the user location, which will produce a little call out if we click on the pin. So if we go ahead and we run the project in the iPhone 5 simulator, we'll see it builds, no issues, that's good to see, and we'll get something similar to the behavior we're used to. What we won't see is we won't see this location automatically defaulting to one infinite loop, but it's defaulting to somewhere down in San Francisco. And that's not going to be a lot of help for us if we're actually looking to test local applications and we happen to be developers in the UK or elsewhere in Europe, or indeed anywhere except downtown San Francisco. So let's take a little look what we can do here. And if you look under the debug menu for the iOS simulator, we've got a few extras here, but what we've got is something called location. Now this is nice. So what we can do is we can click Apple, and we'll see the location is updating, and it's changing, and it's going down to Cupertino, down to one infinite loop, which was the default we had before. If we zoom in, we can see there it is. Move it up a little bit, and there is the location. If we look, we have a few other options. We have one, for example, a freeway drive, which if you sit and watch it over time, you'll notice actually simulates movement as well. There seems to be an issue with this one in zooming in, because as soon as you zoom in, it seems to zoom out again. Not quite sure why that is, but this could be very useful for testing movement-based algorithms or movement-based applications. Now, the one I want to show you, and the whole point of this demonstration, is to show you how to set a custom location. Now, I just happen to have in my head a custom location here. And if we type this in, 4, and we type in the longitude of 0 point. From the 0 point, you can probably guess that it's not going to be somewhere in the US. If we now hit OK, we'll see the location has changed, and we are now simulating an actual user location, which just happens to be Marble Arch in London. So that's how you can set custom locations, and it's going to make it an awful lot easier to test location-based applications in the simulator, and certainly going to mean that we don't need to immediately jump to testing on a device just because we're using MapKit locations.